you choose certain colours when you're painting?
I choose. I tend to go on instinct. Actually, I'm a very instinctive painter. Colours can obviously be representational. Green can be representation of spending a day in the park. Red can be love, or lust, and yellow can be a triumphant colour. Blue can be a sacred colour. I often paint in blue. Blue's certainly one of my favourite colours. It's a very sacred colour. I was very influenced, I still am, by the National Gallery and the paintings of the old masters. Maybe out of fashion, but it's never been to me. And I've always, I was going to National as a child. I always, and as an adult, it's all about the sacred. It's all about the holy. It's all about saints and the divine experience. And I wanted to communicate that. I wanted to paint in oils, and I wanted to communicate the sublime, the sacred. So I felt through abstract painting, I was able to do that. It's another language. It's another country. Abstract painting, and the rules still apply. You still have to paint with intelligence. You still have to be aware of perspective and the relationship of colours and cool and warm colours.
Yeah.
Cool and warm and hot and cold and the balance of colours and the colour wheel. But abstract painting, to me, it's another language, and that's what art's about. I was a portrait painter and a figurative painter, and I suddenly felt I wanted to be an artist. I always called myself as an artist, and I found abstract painting. It took me many years of splashing around and making a frightful mess before I suddenly started to find a language. It said everything to me. No one ever understood it.
What's this language called?
Well, it's the abstract.
Yeah.
It's the abstract. Yeah.
So for that, you feel that you transcend yourself more through abstract?
Yeah, absolutely. Transcend myself and the world. And I didn't want to... I was doing a lot of nude paintings at the moment, at the time. And I used to have friends who used to look at the paintings and say, oh, look at that, wow. I fancy a bit of that. And I was so disappointed. I felt, no, you missed the point. I'm not trying to communicate lust. I'm trying to communicate the sacred female. And it used to upset me. And so I came around to abstract and realised that no one could then say, that's about a dude. That's a painting of a dude. That's a painting of a beautiful woman with beautiful a beautiful body.
Yeah. Like the one behind you there.
Yeah.
This one, it's got that kind of doorways.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, for me it is, but for you it might be something else.
No, absolutely. Well, what it is for you is more important.
Yeah.
What it is for me, sometimes I don't even know what it is for me. Yeah. It's a bad day. But if it's, it's another language. It's another form, and it's a meditation as well. That's the thing. Words don't get in the way, and that was where it was so exciting to me when I started to find a language.
And what advice would you give your younger self?
My younger self, what advice? Work harder, work harder, work harder. Be kinder, and be more thoughtful.
Piers, thank you so much for allowing us into your studio with this film. It was such a privilege and a real treat for us to see your working space and see your paintings. Tell us, how are you in that space every day? Are you always painting in that space, or what is that?
Yeah. Um, I do. I always paint in that space. I spend hours in that space.
Yeah,
It's got good light. The wind rushes through the studio
yeah,
and sweeps the fumes out. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And when you started painting, was that a conscious decision, or was it something that just evolved?
It evolved. I always used to tell my father, much to his horror, that I was going to be an artist,
Yeah.
and it slowly just came about and came about. And philosophically, it was the right conclusion for me.
Yeah. What did your father? I'm going to ask you to go a bit further because you're in the screen, and so I'm wondering whether we can go a bit further forward so that you don't go on the screen. There you go.
Is that
Capturing
better?
you. Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay.
Maybe the screen can go higher because it's catching. So what did your father want you to be, and did he have any aspirations for you that were different to what you?
No, he wasn't. He didn't really. He wanted me to be successful, rich, down to earth,
Yeah,
focused, normal,
yeah, yeah,
kind of average Joe.
yeah,
And I tried to be that still.
yeah,
But he certainly he was a writer, and he struggled in life
Yes.
with money and so forth. And so I don't think he really wanted me to become an artist, but he wasn't surprised. I come from a family of artists. And, yeah.
And did you start at a young age experimenting with paint or other mediums? What was your
I started at a young age in theatre.
theatre?
Yeah, at 17 I was running a theatre company throughout HM prisons from 17 to 25. And then as I grew up and changed, I wanted to be a painter. Yeah.
How did that? It takes a bit of confidence to say I'm going to be a painter now.
Yeah.
Was that a conscious decision, or did you just start making paintings and putting them out there?
I knew a painter at the time, and I used to see him work. A guy called Lance Tilbury, and I was very impressed by him, and I'd watch him work. And he didn't encourage me, but he sort of showed me the way a bit, and was positive about it. So yeah, and it was just something I just really, it became such a part of me. I couldn't. I'd have painted in anywhere I was painting.
Really?
Yeah.
And when you talked about theatre earlier, that's also the arts. So there's
Yes.
kind of something about self-expression, whether it's through acting and theatre or through painting. Is there a recurrent theme in what you're trying and the things that you?
Certainly, yeah. I learned a lot from the theatre of drama.
Really?
Yes, and I quickly learned what makes a good play, what makes a good film, what makes a good painting.
Yeah.
In my mind, is drama. Every good painting you look at has something in it: pathos, drama,
Yeah.
a hint of violence, a hint of sex, a hint of something, an edge.
Yeah.
And I discovered myself being a painter and a traveling artist, a traveling dramatist and a painter. I discovered myself often on the edge. And so it became, the work's always autobiographical, so it became part of my modus operandi to paint, to try and find that edge in the painting. Do you see that?
Yeah, I can see that, and so, especially in your latest work, which is someone saw the other day. So this is all the figurative work,
Yes,
which is
it's the early
beautiful.
work. Yeah.
And this one and the ones that follow are also. Someone said the other day when they were looking at it in the exhibition, was said that it's like a controlled explosion.
Yeah.
When you talk about being on the edge.
Yes.
So that's a contradictory in terms of a control, but an explosion. How do you feel when you're creating these? They look explosive, but are they meticulously planned, or are they just you going? Yeah, tell us about that.
They are meticulously planned.
Yeah.
I work very pedantically with drawings to begin with, and I'll spend a week. I've just spent. I mean, it's during an exhibition, so my mind hasn't been 100% on it. But I've just spent a week doing a drawing, and I'll do a drawing, and I'll use a couple of. I'll use one main theme, and then I'll use a couple of paints, and then the hues, the colours will change as I work, and I'll search, as I say, I'll look for that edge. This painting is boring.
Yes.
I find this painting boring.
Do you ever find your own work boring?
Often.
Really?
Often. And I will destroy it, and I won't destroy it. Usually what I'll do is I'll find out why it's boring and what I need to do to make it exciting. Yeah.
How do you do that? Do you just look at it for hours and say, how can I shift it? Or does it just come to you in one fell swoop?
No. I try one thing, and then normally it's due to the science of painting. Normally it's because I haven't used a cold colour, a cold with a cold hue. So, for instance, in this painting, I'll highlight the blues by using the orange, which is the contrary.
Oh, interesting, yeah.
Yeah, so the orange will make the blues stand out, but I'll use a cold blue, such as the dark blue, against a light blue to give it a movement, and I'm telling you my secrets now.
Yeah, no, I love it. Please tell me more.
Yeah. Well, of course, I'll need to ground the painting. So I'll use heavy black lines to give it, especially if they're an abstract painting, it's easy, as you know yourself, being a painter, your abstract paintings can just take off, you know, and then they're not, the viewer will look at them and they won't feel grounded.
Yes.
And you've got to make, you know, it's like Steppenwolf, Hermann Hesse. Yeah. He says to Pablo, how can you make these, how can you sing these boring tunes? And he says, I'm an artist, not just for myself, for the people.
Yeah.
And that's how I see it as well, is when somebody looks at the painting, they have got to be, what they see, you have got to, as you say, control.
Yes.
You know, you have got to, for want of a better word, manipulate the viewer's mind, eyes.
It's really interesting what you say about that you do as an artist care about the viewer.
Very much.
Because there's, you know, some artists will make their work and just say, well, I'm making this and that's what I want. And I'm putting it out there and people can feel whatever about it. Whereas you're actually quite conscious of the viewer. Yeah. And that's kind of a weight to have at the back of your mind, that you want it to be understood in a way or relatable in a way.
Yes.
How does that inhabit you when you're making it? Are you self-observing and self-criticizing while you're doing it, or is it something that you do once you've done part of it and then evaluate?
No, I do. I developed that attitude towards painting at art school, and I've kept it ever since. Right. And I obviously I paint for myself. I use my own knowledge because I've studied art. I've studied fine art, fine drawing, colour, draftsmanship, the history of art. For years and years, since I was 14 years old, I started to attend life drawing classes in the Kensington Chelsea College. And I absolutely, the minute I start a painting, it is not for me.
Interesting, really?
Yeah, it's not for me, it's for somebody else. And it's for somebody else to buy, to give me money for.
Yeah, there is that relationship.
Yeah, very much so.
Because it is a living as well, as of course, you have to make a living out of it. So that balance between everything that's a fine balance to strike for every artist.
It is, and I mean, sometimes I'll go years without making a living from it. Yeah. No, well, the most I've ever gone is 2 years without selling a painting. But then other years, I'll sell a few more paintings. Mm-hmm. Fortunately, the tax bracket in this country is quite, it's not, not too low. Yeah. So very much so. It's an exchange of energies, and I'm aware of that. If I didn't sell art, I'd be on the streets. Yeah. I do other things, other jobs.
What other things do you do? What other jobs?
I've taught, I've tutored, I've dug ditches, I've laid cables, I've laid piping.
Great.
Waited tables, been a barman. being a doorman, so on.
And do you think that informs your creative work with all these different experiences? When you do different jobs, you're put in a different situation where it brings out different parts of you or a different context that makes you, enriches you as a person that relates to other people. Does it not?
Very much so. You see the gamut of humanity.
Yes.
And of course, when you're doing the what some might consider the skivvy jobs, the labouring jobs, you see a different side of humanity.
Yeah.
You know, you see an extraordinary, honourable side of humanity. Not least
really?
honourable, not least in yourself. Yeah. You know, you've got to do 7 hours digging a ditch.
Yeah.
You find honour in yourself.
Yes.
But also you find it in other people as well. Mm-hmm. Because you see people treat you in certain ways. Yes. Which you won't have if you walk. You know, it's the same with I've worked in the city. Yes. You know, as a salesman in the city, and you're taught to say in that way, in a very different way, and you mix with a completely different group of people. Yeah. So it's great. I mean, it's hard, but it's great. Yeah, of course, and it helps the art. Yeah.
And talking about the art, we've had some conversations today about what is art and the art world, you know, and how the art world works. Do you find it challenging to be in the art world, or, you know, piercing through, or do you find it a kind of organic thing with the community that you're in? I stood outside after our Portobello radio interview last week, and you stood outside for 10 minutes. Yes. And everyone was walking about the street, so hi Piers. There was this kind of feeling of community. Yes. Outside, and that you're quite well known so how does that work for you in terms of identity? Yeah, I'm really a community guy, definitely. I mean, I love people. Yeah. I so love people. I love the warmth of conversation. Yeah. But I've really been very careful I exhibit a lot in the area with pop-up, with Ron Best, for instance, pop-up exhibitions. And I really try and get the community involved and get the community interested in art. Mm. And and I love to do that, to take that gift to people. And I've taught art in the communities as well. Have you? I've taught art in drop-in centres, local drop-in centres, prisons. Yeah. When you do that in community centres, do you find that people, when they take a paintbrush, they don't see themselves as an artist, but you're helping them discover that side of them? Is that rewarding for you? How do you notice in their reactions to, oh wow, I can make something? How does that happen? What I discovered from that is that somebody can do a little piece of art, and in a cabinet, and their niece will walk in, and the family will be all around it, and it always means so much to them. Yes. I mean, I always say to people, Chopin. Yeah. Called Nocturnes, correct? Yeah. And do you listen to that while you're painting, or not really? Is that? Yeah, I do sometimes, of course. Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes I need absolute quiet. Mm-hmm. When I'm wrestling with technique, or the paintings, I need absolute quiet. But when I'm blocking in colour, and it's just a lovely time, as you know, as a painter. Yes. As any artist knows, that lovely moment. When it's just flowing and when the paint is flowing, then I'll listen to Chopin. Yeah. Or if I need speed, I'll put on some rock and roll or some disco, you know. You dance around your studio by yourself always, sometimes? It's always good. Yeah. Actually, it's quite when I'm in the studio, actually it's a knife fight. Yes. Yeah, it's not a dance. A night flight. Knife fight. Oh, a knife fight. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. But with a brush. So it can wrestle. You're wrestling with it. Absolutely. Is it quite physical? It's very physical, and it's a terrible struggle and a terrifying struggle. And every time I do a painting, I feel I'm about to give up painting. Really? Every time. Yeah. And I'll work for 16 hours on the piece, and I won't have slept, and I won't have eaten properly, and God, and I'll be ragged, and it'll be awful, and I'll be like, I have to give up painting. What am I going to do? Yeah, really. And then you always have that self-doubt. But then when you pull through, how do you feel after you've pulled through? And actually, when do you know that it's finished? You know, that this painting is ready to be. What is that moment? I know a painting is finished when it starts to become a different painting, and also I know a painting is finished when I start to fuss. Oh, I see.
When I
About the little
start to,
detail.
you know,
Yeah, I see. Yeah.
it's finished. Come on, man.
Yeah.
You know, go get yourself a cup of coffee and
Yeah.
start another one.
And do you have a color scheme that means something to you? Do you have certain colors that are key?
I have quite, as you can see in this palette, as I'm painting nocturnes, often there are the blues and the purples in the background. And I tend to use luminous colours that work well with the dark. So that's most colours, actually.
Yeah. So you're kind of very open to whatever feels right. Do you
Yeah.
just experiment putting them next to each other, or do they have a symbolism to you? Do they have meanings?
They do
Or not?
have meanings, yeah. Like the painting in the exhibition,
Yes.
the large piece that I've been exhibiting,
Yes.
it's got red, and red is obviously, it's a very warm colour, and it was a time at the death of my father, and my father and I didn't always have a great relationship, but we healed it towards the end of his life, and I painted this towards the end of his life, and I would come home every night and paint the and just paint. Try and paint happiness and comfort and love, and that's what red is.
Yeah.
Red is blood. It's flowing through our veins. It's the stuff of our life. It's the stuff of the fire
Yes.
that warms us, that feeds us.
Yes.
Red is the color of the womb, mother.
Yes.
You know, so you know you're safe with red, but you're only safe with red as a painter if you balance it.
Yes.
Because if you make it too red, someone's going to come along and see a red painting, and they're going to maybe, you know, the way colors work is if you have an all red canvas, your eyes automatically flick away because you're searching for the contrary, and the contrary of red is green, but I'll use a blue to calm the eye down. Yeah.
Yes.
So
I can see that here.
yeah, so you can see that here. It's very much a scientific painting. I mean, it's a drawing actually, but I've got the red. The red and the contrary of the red is the green, and the ultimate cool is the blue at the background.
Yes.
And then of course black works. The black charcoal works very well with blue. It's a charcoal drawing, charcoal
Yes.
oil pastel, and a collage. These are collages as well.
They look like fragments of time. There's a kind of time element in them somehow.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I try and put movement in.
Yes. Yeah.
So as soon as you have movement, you have time passing,
Yes.
which is if you can achieve as a painter,
Yeah.
is there again one of those tricks which some will notice and some won't, but
Yes.
it will attract the eye. Yeah, I hope.
Yeah.
That's
No,
the plan.
They're definitely attractive. People have been stopping in their tracks looking at these
Oh,
paintings.
really?
And they are quite, like this one as well, they're quite
Yes.
hypnotic in a sense. It's an internal as well as an external work. And you can
Yeah.
really feel that movement within this moment, like capturing a moment in time. I mean,
Yes.
talking about time, what is your next? Are you developing this more?
Yeah.
Or what are you?
Yeah, no.
So going deeper into it, into
Yes.
your next phase.
Yeah. Yes. I'm going deeper into it, continuing with the abstract.
Yeah.
Unless I'm a portrait painter as well.
Yes.
So if portraits come along, I'm happy.
Commissioned ones,
Yeah,
yeah.
commissioned portraits. I'm more than happy to take those on. And they're very rewarding. I love people.
Yeah, because I think you have a kind of real affection to people. There's
Yeah.
a kind of natural, yeah.
Yeah.
You're bringing someone's spirit. The thing about portraits is that you're bringing out not just the likeness, but the spirit of the person. So you almost have to kind of,
Yes. Yeah, and if
Yeah.
somebody agrees to sit with you for a painting, usually, always, what am I saying usually? Always, they're beautiful people, that
Yes.
are poetic people.
yeah.
Most people are beautiful, poetic people, you know?
Well, you are a beautiful, poetic person. And thank you for being with us here today. That was a really great insight into your work. Thank you.
Thank you, Maya. Thank you very much for having me.
Pleasure.